The Week in TV: The Yorkshire Ripper Files. Road to Brexit. Over 3 nights, an exhaustive documentary finally turned our attention to the women at the centre of Britain's biggest manhunt. Over 3 nights, an exhaustive documentary finally turned our attention to the women at the centre of Britain's biggest manhunt. The Yorkshire Ripper Files, a very British crime story. BBC 4 Road to Brexit, BBC 2 Victoria ITV Baptiste, BBC 1. Filmmaker Liza Williams had obviously started work on long before the recent unconscionable slayings in, after which the New Zealand Premier, Jacinda Ardern, refused to grant the perpetrator the billboarding of notoriety. Williams went instead, the emphasis was firmly, and correctly, on Wilma McCann, Emily Jackson, and the subsequent 11 women slaughtered. Hammer to the skull, repeated stabbing by screwdriver in the Bradford/Huddersfield/Halifax areas between 1975 and 1980. Sadly, in a way, these were well-worn territories. What was different about the rampant casual misogyny, the sleeting cold, the poverty, the savagely misnomered bars, the gaiety? Really? With grand input from such clear-eyed thinkers as the ever-sparky journalist Joan Smith, this fine documentary also reminded us how toxic were our attitudes in those days, when there could still be a split in the public mind between deserving and innocent victims. When local newspapers, not just in policing, knew that era's errors led to the setting up of the first Holmes cross-referencing system, but in society's attitudes. Not only did the I loved a bitsa of a spirited if ultimately futile half-hour attempt to rip the remaining bejesus out of that political fiasco, in the week Theresa May favourite sportsman. See above. Barry is often sublime, and his skewering of pompous pop historians, toothachingly trendy smug remainers, sinister Tory bigots, hit in hindsight more targets than I am giving the program credit for. But, in the end, funny and wise was the return of to Amazon Prime. This multi-layered, every episode is truly absorbing, but this opener to the 3rd series featured among its many highlights an enlightening animated short on the concept of the non-disclosure agreements, great fun and a fantastic diatribe from Diane Christine Baranski, lips alone moving in the dark, as she quietly bewails what has happened to men. Where did the real guy? If you prefer your message, whether it's Me Too, freedom of expression, racial equality, or simple banal legal ethics, delivered with a modicum of subtlety and lashings of style, this is the show for you. Hasn't quite got going yet, so I'll wait a little. This is not a spoil. Hugely Mississippi. True, before you post, we'd like to thank you for joining the debate. We're glad you've chosen to participate, and we value your opinions and experiences. Please choose your username under which you would like all your comments to show up. You can only set, please keep your posts respectful and abide by the and. If you spot a comment you think doesn't adhere to the guidelines, please use the report link next to it to let us know. Please preview your comment below and click post when you're happy with it.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.